I can't believe I have to do this.
Anything that fundamentally shifts a power balance is going to take time, a lot of hard work, and real dedication. I know this firsthand. I'm here this evening because I helped to bring about Canada's first ever gender-balanced cabinet.
And that's what I'm talking about. See, I know I'm really late to the discussion about this, and so I can't believe that I have a reason to talk about it still. But I really think I do because you just made this speech a few days ago, and I was amazed at both the poor quality of your arguments and your apparently invincible pride at your contribution to gender inequity, even after receiving so much well-reasoned criticism for so long. And you're not just patting yourself on the back for it either. You're actively promoting it as a symbol of progress. That means you're trying to cause this problem in other places. So yes, Justin, you did help create Canada's first gender-balanced cabinet, and you did that with a gender-imbalanced caucus. Or in other words, what you helped to do was damage equality of opportunity in the government. And that's not helpful to anyone. Let me explain. Your cabinet is made up of Liberal members of Parliament. For the Liberals in the last election, there were 50 female MPs elected, and since there were 184 total seats taken by the Liberals, that leaves 134 male MPs. And that means that the selection pool for the cabinet was about 27% female. And yet to keep your election promises, you required the cabinet to be 50% female. Now, there are 31 seats in the current cabinet, including yours, 15 of which are filled by women and 16 by men. And that means each woman had a 30% chance to be chosen for the cabinet, and each man had a 12% chance. Any individual female MP was 2.5 times as likely to be chosen for the current cabinet as any individual male MP. If that doesn't make it perfectly clear why insisting on equality of outcome rather than equality of opportunity is inherently unfair and discriminatory, then I really don't know how else to help you. And I know someone's going to bring up the objection that they were chosen for their skill, but that objection really does not help you. And the reason is the 50-50 outcome wasn't just a chance occurrence caused by a general superiority of the female candidates. If it just happened to fall out that way without premeditation, I'd just go, well, cool, fine, The guys must have sucked this time around. But no, that's not how it worked. It was decided in advance that the cabinet would be 50-50. The decision to discriminate against whichever gender of MP ended up being elected in higher numbers, which was likely to be men, was part of the platform you ran on. Okay, the Liberals didn't know before the election who was going to be elected. And they also didn't know if the elected women would tend to be superior, or if the men would, or if they'd be about equal. And so obviously the operating assumption had to be that they would be about equal. And so qualifications were irrelevant. Either way, no matter what their qualifications, men were going to be deliberately disadvantaged to replace the fair equality of opportunity that existed previously with the trendy, but incredibly unfair, equality of outcome. So thanks, Justin, for doing your part to destroy gender equality in Canada. That's super helpful, thanks. Isn't this the kind of thing that people rightfully worked really, really hard in past decades to eliminate? Career opportunities being improved or diminished based on a candidate's superficial and irrelevant physical characteristics? Women, non-white people, disabled people, and so on. People would be outraged if you took a glance at a person in any of those groups and decided on just that basis to cut their chances of being appointed to the cabinet in half, and then we're still crowing about it in public months later as though it was the greatest thing you ever did. It would rightfully cause outrage. Why?
Because it's 2015.
I'm kidding, obviously. The real point is that a lot of progress has been achieved, and some of us would rather not implement regressive policies that drag society back down to where it used to be. And yet now, for some reason that I can't figure out, you've not only knowingly implemented exactly that kind of regressive policy, but you've even done it in such a way that even though it's designed to disadvantage males, someday in the future it might actually disadvantage females instead, if more than half of the elected MPs are women at that time. And I really gotta wonder if you'll be consistent in your application of this then. Maybe you will. Maybe what you care about isn't really disadvantaging men specifically, but you just think gender-based discrimination as a concept is really, really cool and important, regardless of who it affects, and should be implemented against the individuals of whatever body parts happen to be attached to the majority of the winners. Or maybe, once it starts to disadvantage women, this idea will quietly be discarded. I guess all we can do is wait and see.
Studies have shown that women are 50% less likely than men to consider themselves potential candidates for elected office.
Okay, so women are less likely, on average, to choose to run for office. Got it. Do your thing, ladies, run for office, go to space, stay home and raise babies if you want. I mean, you can do anything that you put your mind to. Enjoy all that freedom of choice. Isn't it amazing to live in Canada? But there's more, isn't there?
Of course, we didn't need a study to tell us that. We saw it firsthand every time we asked women to step up and run for politics.
Okay, so the leadership of the Liberal Party of Canada was directly asking specific women if they wanted to get into politics, and they didn't want to. So I guess their interests just lay elsewhere. It makes sense. What are we doing here? Are we building up to some kind of rousing salute to individualism?
You see, when you ask a man if he wants to run for office, his very first question is,
Why bother?
when do I start?
Oh, okay, there it is. That super problematic, ambitious, power-hungry man stereotype that promotes patriarchal attitudes and oppresses men who don't fit the mold. We have to stomp that stereotype out. But the Prime Minister of Canada just won't stop promoting it. We just can't do it.
But we found that when we asked a woman the same question, her first reaction was different. It was, really, why me? She'd ask if we were serious. She'd want to know why exactly we thought she was qualified for the job.
Okay, sounds like a reasonable question. Honestly, it's kind of too bad that more people don't ask that.
We launched a campaign called Invite Her to Run. We reached out through social media and other channels to ask Canadians to invite women they knew to run for office.
I got no problem with that. Your party wasn't in power at the time, and you used your party's funds in a way that you thought would be beneficial. Whether someone on the outside agrees or not is pretty irrelevant.
And that was a really important step in pulling together the pool of talent needed to be able to say so casually and blithely, well, because it's 2015.
Your cabinet, you said, looks a lot like Canada, and I understand one of the priorities for you was to have a cabinet that was gender balanced. Why was that so important to you?
Because it's 2015.
Encouraging more women to run for office was an important step in being able to make a terrible argument for explicit gender discrimination. Okay, yeah, Justin, I suppose I can see how a strategy to get more women elected would at least have made your campaign promise a little bit less harmful to your image. I mean, after all, if you wanted to get a 50-50 male-female cabinet and had 50-50 male-female MPs to pick from, it could almost look fair. You know, as long as you didn't stop to consider that the most qualified candidates will unlikely be exactly 50-50 male-female, and so you'll probably still have to pick at least a couple people based more on what's in their pants than what's in their head. Other than that, though, yeah, sure, looks fair. But when you only manage to get 27% of your MPs to be women, even after that social media campaign to encourage them or whatever, and then you still refuse to even consider that maybe it might be okay if your cabinet tends naturally towards that ratio as well, and so you consciously choose to give one gender more than double the chance at being picked for a cabinet position than the other gender gets, the injustice is glaringly obvious to a lot of people. And when the only response you can give when people ask you about the reasons behind your discriminatory policies is that it's currently the current year, well, you get the response that you've been getting. I mean, this should have been expected.
One perfect example for me, the one that encapsulates the struggles with getting women to run, was our fantastic Minister of International Trade, well known to many New Yorkers, Chrystia Freeland. She and I had many long conversations about the reality of working in politics and what the demands would be. I had to convince her to uproot her young family to move from New York to Toronto to run in the election, and if she was successful then, she would then have to move to Ottawa and further uproot her family.
Here's a dramatic reenactment of this story that I've performed with my wife, Is It Original? Subscribe to her on YouTube.
Oh, I so love my young family and my life here in New York.
Prithee, my lady, why dost thee not run in the Canadian election?
No, thank you. I don't really want to uproot my family.
Silly wench, thou canst not make decisions based on trivialities such as family and your own precious little wishes. Thou shalt help achieve gender balance in the Canadian government.
But I like it here, and it sounds hard. I don't really want to.
I, Sir Justin, know what is best for you, little one. Thou shalt aid me in achieving my political goals.
Please, leave me alone.
And yet good Sir Justin, who had never learned that no means no, persisted in harassing this poor woman until she finally uprooted her family. Twice. And Sir Justin lived happily ever after, in a cloud of smug self-righteousness. The end.
Now, many of you know I am a feminist and proud to call myself one.
Gee, I never would have guessed.
I know and believe that women can do and be anything they want.
Yeah, I'm sure you think they can, you just don't think they should. No, somehow you've managed to get the idea into your head that what women should be and do is whatever you find valuable or whatever you think would be good for them. On the other hand, I think women can and should be and do anything they want, which is exactly why I don't obsess over trying to change masses of them to take up the careers that I think are best for them. No, a woman can and should be and do what she wants, even if what she wants is to stay in New York and not uproot her family, instead of running in the Canadian election.
But I also know that meaningful cultural change can't and won't happen when only half of the population works towards change. Men need to act, to set examples, and to be role models too.
Oh, I seriously hope you're not going to say men need to be role models for women. I think the other feminists would pull off your balls and eat them.
I've always tried to make sure that my daughter feels empowered, that she understands that her gender does not and should never determine the limits of what she can accomplish.
Exactly the same here. I mean, she's not really old enough yet to understand what I'm telling her, but that's the plan. Which is exactly why I don't want her gender to determine whether she has a better or worse chance of getting picked for the cabinet if she gets into politics. She deserves an equal chance, just like everybody else, and she'll get it done if that's what she really wants to do. Justin, I will not have any of the women in my family who I love treated like incompetent quota fillers, when as far as I'm concerned, they should be treated with the dignity and respect that they earn as intelligent and productive members of society, and given the chance to compete on equal ground with everyone else. That's how you achieve fulfillment and self-confidence and all that other good stuff.
But Sophie reminded me recently that I need to spend just as much time and effort engaging with my sons, talking to them about feminism and the importance of equality.
Justin, your brand of feminism is the antithesis of equality. It's designed to promote inequality where there previously was equality. And if you teach your sons that way, they're going to end up treating women like dogs, just like you do. Patting them on the head and giving them a biscuit when they do a neat trick like shaking a paw or getting elected to parliament.
Men have a critical role to play in demanding and supporting this societal shift. We need to speak out in support of gender equality.
And I really wish you would. You're the Prime Minister. You have a lot of influence. You have a real opportunity to do a lot of good, and you're blowing it.
And gentlemen, we need to get comfortable identifying ourselves as feminists.
What is it with you and trying to make people get comfortable doing things they're not comfortable doing? It's kind of creepy.
Courage is ostensibly why I'm here this evening. Is it really courageous to want to have a government leadership that more accurately reflects the people they're elected to represent?
Justin, when people tell you they want leaders who better reflect them, they're not using the word reflect literally. They don't actually mean that they want people who kind of look like a mirror image of themselves as long as they stand far enough back and squint. No, they're talking about values, principles, ideas, important things. Because you see, and try to stay with me here, that's how reasonable people decide whether someone represents them well or not. They don't act like ignorant apes, pulling down their leaders' pants to inspect their genitals and holding up swatches to match skin colors. There are words for people who consider race and sex relevant factors in their leader. And those words are racist and sexist. And as someone who isn't racist or sexist, I personally would much rather have the cabinet populated by black women who share my politics than by blonde white guys with the politics of Joseph Stalin. I actually didn't make that choice on the basis that I like white guys less. As a matter of fact, you could have never even shown me the candidates and I still would have said the same thing. Wow. You know why? Because the politics are what matter in politics.
For true courage, look to when a woman decides to throw her hat in the political arena, even after witnessing that hostile environment that so often awaits her.
Yes, politics can get pretty nasty, and it takes courage for any person to realize that and do it anyway. Much respect to anyone who does that, no matter what's between their legs.
True courage is fighting for that raise because you know you deserve pay equal or greater to that of your male colleagues.
Do you mean for equal work? You don't make it clear. If not, then a woman may deserve equal pay, or better pay, or worse pay, based entirely on her work. But if you do mean equal work, and you're telling me that women deserve to be paid the same as or more than men, well then, supportive sexist pay discrimination is unbecoming of any national leader in current year.
True courage is standing up and demanding better representation, better treatment, and better opportunities.
Which is why I'm making this video. Anyway, you bang on for a while longer, but I've made my main point, so I'm gonna skip to the end and let my audience watch and comment on the other stuff if they're so inclined. I would encourage everyone to watch the full video if you haven't. It's actually pretty fascinating in how bad it is. And if you want to see a video response to the whole video, I recommend Sargon's response, which I've linked in the description.
And if anyone you challenge to step up and do more on gender equality, dares tell you, oh, we've come such a long way, I don't think there's that much left to do, just tell them to ask any woman they know.
Oh, okay. Well then, my friends, I'm gonna leave the rest of the video to the women I asked about this, but just before I go, I would like to remind you, if you've enjoyed this, remember to subscribe so you can catch my future videos. If you'd like to support me, you can donate on Patreon, or you can make a one-time donation on PayPal. You can also follow me on Twitter or Facebook at Logicked in both places. And if you have requests for videos for me to debunk, you can tweet them to me using #LogickedRequest, or post them to rlogicked on Reddit. All the links for that are in the description, and also make sure to subscribe to all the women who provided these response videos to Mr. Trudeau. Links to their channels are also in the description. Now without further ado, ladies.
If you think we don't need it anymore, ask any woman.
Just ask a woman.
Just tell them to ask any woman they know.
Just tell them to ask any woman they know.
Wait, that's his drop the mic moment?
Yes.
You really are a little weasel boy, aren't you?
How retarded are you to actually say that is the most ridiculous bullshit I have ever heard?
I don't think that issues that concern human beings as a whole need to be looked at through the magnifying glass of a movement that is defined by one gender taking importance precedence over the other, even as it denies doing so.
Could we fucking drop this shit already? You fucking sugar-titted cunt waffles!
Hey, what's wrong with being sugar-titted?
He thinks that he can talk for every single woman in the goddamn world. And you know what? You can't talk for me, you stupid fucking bastard.
You sexist cunt.
And proud to call myself one.
It is horrific on how much of a beta bitch you are.
Sophie inspires me every day to be better, and I would not be here tonight were it not for her leadership and her example.
You're a whipped pussy, Trudeau.
Listen up, all you pencil-dicked cunt gobblers.
You have proven beyond the shadow of a doubt that all you need to join Trudeau's cabinet nowadays is a fucking vagina, preferably in exotic colors.
Well, oh well, fuck the men. No, it cannot be that way.
You want to know the two things that keep me down most in life? My economic status and my disability.
I don't think that precedent should then garner favor in the workplace, entertainment media, or academia, or anywhere else. I think that should be based on ability and talent.
If you really want to empower women, how about honoring their skills and qualifications instead of their absence of dicks?
It is 2016.
Because it's 2015.
It's time for you to put on your big boy pants and actually look at the world instead of looking through this pussified binoculars that you're looking through.
The thing that's keeping me down right now has nothing to do with my genitalia.
I am a caretaker, but it was my choice.
Any woman they know.
Are you seriously that stupid? Are you seriously that fucking retarded?
Women do not need to be put in a cotton box and pampered like porcelain dolls. They need to be treated as real, equal human beings. That means they also have the right to lose with dignity because their opponents are better.
I think any movement that focuses on equality should focus on social issues of importance and impact rather than the collective whine of professional victim mongers.
Okay, Mr. Ratface. How the hell are women so more oppressed in this country?
Justin, listen, women in the first world, in Canada, and the US, and places like that are some of the most spoiled on earth. We have every single right men do, and more. And don't give me that wage gap crap. It's not about discrimination. Come on, you know this.
Last time I checked, my vagina wasn't getting in the way of anything.
I am not oppressed. I have every opportunity in my life that any man does.
And don't even get me started how 2016 you are when you jerk off on the idea of having middle-aged style oppressive government while mansplaining to the rest of the women how fucking oppressed they are. Sorry, Sheikh Al-Trudeau.
Justin Trudeau was right. There is still a lot to be done when it comes to gender equality. For example, a dream of mine is for my sons to one day have equal reproductive rights with the women their age.
Women do not get circumcised.
Male children are stripped of their right to bodily integrity, unlike the girls who, for the most part, are protected under law from the horrific cultural practices of their parents.
Women get custody of the children 80% of the time.
Was that not the kind of gender equality he was talking about?
I think such a movement should service existing victims for their benefit rather than creating victims to be serviced upon for someone else's.
Sophie reminded me recently that I need to spend just as much time and effort engaging with my sons, talking to them about feminism.
You're ruled by the cunt. Your breath smells like a cunt.
Ma femme extraordinaire.
And your French sounds like a banshee's queef.
If I had a son, I would tell him don't believe what the fuck everyone is telling you all the fucking time because it's fucking bullshit and you are better than that.
I am a feminist.
Oh, so he meant feminist women.
I don't need feminism.
We do not need your cultish feminism.
I do not need feminism.
Justin Trudeau, I do not need feminism.
Any woman.
Crawl back into the twat that bore you, Trudeau.
It's 2016.
With feminism in his head, he bravely faced the press and said, because it's current year right now, let's keep oppressive wieners out. And all impressed with his conceit, he didn't let the girls compete. Bravest of the brave, Sir Justin.